So you're listening to The Exchange by Evolution, a melting pot of ideas and inspiration shared by some of the most successful technical leaders in the APAC region. I'm Pearlie, Associate Consultant with Evolution Recruitment Solutions, and I help connect businesses with top tech talents. And today, I'm your host. Just a disclaimer before we get into the discussion, all thoughts and views spoken by the speaker and myself are only representing each individual and not that of their company. Welcome to another installment of our podcast. On today's podcast, we'll be discussing the topic of leadership lessons learned, a data scientist executive journey. I'm delighted to be joined by our esteemed speaker, Johnson Poh, Head Enterprise AI and Data at UOB and Adjunct Professor at SMU. To begin, it would be great for Johnson to give a brief introduction of himself. So Johnson, would you like to share more?
Yeah, thanks so much, Pearlie, for the introduction. Just a little bit more background about myself. I've been a data scientist for the past decade or so, with experience spanning across the financial, banking, consulting, pharmaceutical, as well as the government sectors. And concurrently, as was mentioned earlier, I'm also an adjunct faculty at the Singapore Management University, where I help to develop as well as teach programs in big data analytics, as well as programming for machine learning. And on a more academic note, my background lies in mathematics and statistical computing. I did my undergraduate studies in UC Berkeley and then my postgraduate studies at Yale University, both based in the US. And on a more personal note, I like developing data products as well as web apps. So in my younger days, I was an avid coder and programmer. I've taken part in a couple of hackathons, and I've been quite fortunate to have won a couple of them. And more recently, right, my interest lies in IoT and home automation, right? Given that I've just moved to a new place, so I've been spending a little bit of time tinkering on all these IoT devices to make our lives easier, right, in our homes.
I see,
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
You're like at the forefront of data. Okay, interesting. So obviously, today's topic is more of your journey leading teams. So as you've mentioned in your introduction earlier, you've spent over like 10 years. And also, I believe you're very experienced in terms of leading teams. So let's jump right into today's podcast. It's really great to have you here with us. So I guess, over the years, how do you think your leadership style and approach evolved throughout your career in the data space?
Oh, well, thanks for the question. I think that's a very interesting one and also a very philosophical one. I haven't been giving it much thought. But given that I guess you have structured it in such a context, I think it's also worthwhile for me to look back across my career to see if we can actually structure something out of my the experiences that I've gone through. So I would say there are three phases, right, when it comes to leadership, right, in the data space. The first stage, I would term it as a more personal development stage. Where we are more focused on building technical depth, honing our skill sets, and as well as driving the build-up of analytical capability. Right, so a lot of it revolves around more of, I would say, personal leadership, leading yourself, right? In leveling your own capability up, so that you can actually accomplish accomplish the scope, your portfolio, as well as to expand on your horizon for further developments. So I guess when it comes to this stage of building analytical capability, a lot of I guess the main focus would be on the skill sets that are required of an effective data scientist. Okay, so there are three elements that I personally find very important. I think these are not new factors. I'm pretty sure across the industry, we're familiar with these three factors when it comes to the field of data science. First of which is statistical knowledge and being well grounded on the theoretical aspects of data analytics as well as machine learning. Right. So our fundamental knowledge in data, in mathematics, as well as statistics will be relevant here. Right? It's with good theoretical understanding on this subject that we're able to interpret the results as well as conduct analysis in the most meaningful way. Right? So that's the first factor. The second factor will be that of programming skill sets. So in order to bridge the application with the theoretical context, right, with the theoretical fundamentals, we would need to master, right, the practical knowledge, right, in incorporating the techniques, right, as part of our business products. So the programming element is an area that we, as a young data scientist, right, in the first stage of our career, we should dedicate good focus on. And last but not least would be that of building business domain expertise, right? Getting to know the subject, the business application of data, right, in a more elaborate way, right? Have basically spend good time as well as effort in learning more about the intricacies of the business that we're in, right? So I guess that sort of summarizes the first stage, right, of our what we call personal leadership, right, in building, in setting our fundamentals right, for the subsequent stages of development. And then as we develop ourselves, as we mature a little bit more, we then move on to the second stage, right, of driving data capabilities. So if I were to put on a little bit more of a consulting language, right, in the way data analytics is in the way I drive data analytics as well as data science, will be that of vertical in the first stage, right, building depth, technical depth, right, within the field of our interests, including the business domains. And then the second stage will be building more breadth, right, as well as expanding on the skill sets, broadening our capabilities. And in the space of data science, I thought one of the other relevant suite of skill sets that will be that are extremely important as well will be that of engineering capability. Okay, building engineering capability which essentially cuts across all aspects of the end-to-end data pipeline. Right. So when I refer to engineering capabilities, I'm referring to skill sets such as machine learning operations, machine learning engineering, data engineering, visualization, software development, and as well as UI UX. In other words, get ourselves familiarized with the full spectrum of requirements, right, in structuring a full-scale data product, right? So this is what I refer to as horizontal skill sets when it comes to the field of data analytics. And more importantly, we also, and given that building a full-fledged data product requires so many different parts, so many different domains. This is where we should also take the opportunity to develop our leadership skills in driving cross-functional teams, in managing stakeholders across different aspects of the data pipeline. Okay, so you can see that from stage 1 to stage 2, we sort of evolved from a more of a personal leadership model to more of a project management leadership kind of engagement model. And then finally, as we mature from across the two stages of deepening our technical depth, deepening our technical skill sets in analytical capabilities as well as in engineering capabilities in stage 2, then we will then move on to the third stage, right, which is where we build executive capability, right, in managing large-scale data science programs as well as data science projects. Okay, so this is where the people, the process, the technology, as well as the performance elements, okay, of data comes in more, in a more structured way. Right. People are referring, with regard to people, I'm referring to the need to manage large teams, right? And the need to mentor younger data scientists as well as data engineers. And at the same time, we also need to develop, right, the careers, right, of of the different roles, right, within this end-to-end data pipelines. So career management, in addition to technical mentorship, will be relevant, right, as part of the third stage on building executive capability. Process-wise, this is where instead of looking at the implementation in a project basis, right, we need to take on a more enterprise view in terms, as well as a more structured view in terms of driving projects at scale, right? And this is where processes and governance will come in very, very handy, and I would say very importantly. Right, and it's necessary to be able to have that have good understanding on the trade-offs required when it comes to driving project. With having had a solid understanding on the business requirements, the business objectives, at the same time taking into consideration the risks involved when it comes to driving a full-scale project. So this will include the incorporating processes, right, to maintain the quality of our data as well as our models, as well as in ensuring that we are practicing data analytics and AI in a responsible fashion. And technology-wise, I think this is also a stage where we, based on our background experiences as well as our technical fundamentals, it will be important to take on a more holistic view when it comes to running data science programs anchored on sound technology platforms, right? So having that oversight on the more technical elements of powering your data product will come in relevant as well at this stage. And last but not least, also one of the most important one will be performance. Okay, is where I think there's also a need to be able to translate the insights, right, the outcomes of our initiatives into our business bottom lines, right? In other words, there's a need to be able to bridge our outcomes with the business impact, okay? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we need to be well grounded in our objectives, right? Which is to leverage data analytical capabilities to drive our business, as well as to ensure that our operations are more efficient and more structured. So that is one of the elements that that's actually a key area that I think that forms one of the critical pillars, right, of building executive capability when it comes to leading data science teams.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Johnson, for sharing so much. You've brought out a lot of good points, especially the 3 phases. Going from just a newbie, right, stepping into the industry and slowly growing executive capabilities. I guess for yourself, when do you realize that you want to take the next step at every stage?
Well, there's as I highlighted earlier, I think it's a really good question that you have posed to me, by the way. There wasn't any conscious kind of effort, right, to move from a particular stage to the next, right? So I guess I've been rather fortunate and just to be able to progress, right, in a very I would say in a very measured as well as a natural way, given the requirements and demands of my portfolio, as well as the projects I'm dealing with.
I see.
So take for example, I guess a very good example would be my background. It was in data science, right? It was in statistical computing. In other words, my focus was early on really on churning out insights, right? Building models, building predictive, analytical as well as pattern recognition capabilities. But along the way, right, along the course of my work, right, when I was in the consulting business as well as when I was in my previous roles, I found that in order to build a full-fledged data product, there are other elements that are actually extremely important as well, right? It doesn't, the data science as a field does not exist in silo, right? There are lots of dependencies, right? In order to drive the impact that we're looking out for. So that's where I found the need, right, to be well versed, right, as well as well grounded, right, in other elements, right, such as in other aspects, right, of the end-to-end data pipeline, right. This is where stage 2 comes into play, right, the engineering aspects of building the data product. So this is where because of the need to deliver, right, on our core data product, that also means that we need to level up, right, when it comes to building big data platforms, the machine learning engineering aspects of deploying our models, as well as the visualization software development aspects, right, of packaging our models, right. So my experience is sort of, I would say, it's sort of a natural progression that if you're very focused on the outcome, these stages are sort of part and parcel that we would need to fulfill, right, in order to deliver the product. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Johnson, for that. Sounds like a really smooth transition throughout. Okay, so earlier you mentioned that you're obviously leading a big team at UOB right now, right? So could you share some of the key leadership challenges that you faced in your career and how you overcame it?
Leadership challenges. Okay. I guess the challenges would typically come in the form of organization as well as people related considerations rather than the technical considerations, right? The reason being is that when I worked in large organizations and with multiple stakeholders involved when it comes to building a data product. So, and of course, depending on the nature of the corporate environment, the challenges can come in the form of technology, can come in the form of business, as well as and even in driving leadership, right, to be able to invest more, right, in this capability. So whether it's fortunate or not fortunate, I did have good exposure, right, to a spectrum of these challenges across the board. I probably wouldn't go into the detail of the challenges, but ultimately when it comes to driving our data product, I think none of these challenges are not insurmountable. Okay? At the end of the day, what we need to keep in mind here is that we need to deliver fast, right? Ultimately, it's all about delivering fast, scoring quick wins, so that we can build trust. So building trust, right, in the organization, right, across multiple stakeholders, right, this is critical in ensuring the success of a data product. And once we have that, the next it only amounts to the final portion of communicating effectively in order to drive collaboration, as well as to drive outcomes in a more collective fashion. Yeah.
I see. And zooming into team-wise,
yes.
How has the structure of the teams that you're leading changed over the years as well?
How has the structure of teams? Yeah, definitely, right? So I think the field has evolved quite a bit over the years. In the earlier stages of development, the focus was more on building data engineering and data science capability. Okay, focusing on more on the modeling aspects, right, of the data pipeline, of the end-to-end data product development process. And then as we mature in terms of our technical capability, as well as technology platforms, I think this is where we have expanded, right, the scope of this portfolio, right, to include the functions of machine learning engineering to help drive best practices, as well as continuous integration and delivery, as well as other functions, right, such as data visualization, UI UX,
right.
So, and of course AI translators. So there are more functions that comes into play in order to holistically deliver right our end product, right, rather than focusing on just the modeling aspect, right. So there's a full spectrum of I would say skill sets as well as professionals that are required in order to empower the development of our business product, business and data product.
Right.
And then more recently, we are seeing the inclusion of quality, right, data and model quality functions, as well as in AI governance functions, okay, within the scope of our portfolio. Okay, where the AI governance functions helps to align the outcomes of our development process with ethical principles, right, such as fairness, accountability, and transparency. Right. So you can see that I think there are more and more roles, right, required to fulfill, right,
yes.
the data product.
Yeah.
In a more comprehensive, right, and a more in a more structured and as well as I would say in a more taking into considerations, right, a lot of the risk, right, in this developmental process.
I believe so as well. I feel like data teams are getting more and more sophisticated, and they're expanding in terms of the roles that they're hiring as well in a lot of companies.
That's right.
And they're growing their data teams.
That's right.
Right. So I guess how have you ensured that your team's work is aligned with the overall goals and priorities of your organizations or businesses as a whole?
I guess ultimately it's important to keep ourselves aligned with the key performance indicators of the organization. Being specific focus, especially so in our sector, to the areas of generating growth, in enhancing operational efficiency, as well as in engaging our customers, right? Building a better customer experience. And I think last but not least, it's also important to manage the risks, right, as well as fulfill our regulatory requirements, right? That being said, the use of data in risk and regulatory management is one of those areas that I think will be important as well. Yeah.
Interesting. And moving on a little bit more to how you lead your team as well. So specifically, how have you developed and mentored your team members to become leaders in their own rights?
I think first and foremost, at the enterprise level, or in a more professional setting, I think we have in place rigorous training and development opportunities, right, to help level up our professionals, our data engineers, data scientists, with regards to the technical skill sets. So, but beyond that, right, on a more personal note, I also thought that, beyond technical mentorship, I also think that exposure is important, right? Exposing our data scientists as well as data engineers to the different facets and different segments of the end-to-end data pipeline will help them build maturity as well as build domain expertise, both in the business and the technical sense. So that exposure is important. So that being said, portfolio rotations, right? Regular portfolio rotations to help basically build experiences, right, amongst our younger data scientists as well as data engineers. I think will be very fruitful when it comes to developing both their technical skill sets as well as their leadership and project management skill sets.
Nice. And on a more personal level, are there any ways that you mentored or help the younger generations, especially since you're an adjunct professor at SMU, is there any way that you guided this aspiring bunch of data analysts and scientists to explore?
Correct. Yeah. So I think first of all, of course, right, as part of my role, right, as an adjunct faculty, right, a lot of the communication as well as the as well as the development approaches is through sharing, right? It's through teaching.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where they gain more of the technical kind of download, right, from faculty members. But beyond that, I think the connection between the technical, the more technical aspects of the domain to the more business aspects of the domain, I think will be extremely useful as well. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, whatever skill sets that we have acquired, knowledge that we have enriched ourselves with, is really to fulfill a business objective, right? So having that opportunity, right, to providing students with that opportunity, right, to gain hands-on experience, right, in a corporate environment, I think comes in extremely helpful. So and through my engagements with the students, right, in universities as well as in my professional role, right, in driving data analytics initiatives, right, in a business environment. We have also facilitated a good number of internships, right, in helping our students gain more real life exposure, right, on the applications of big data as well as machine learning. Yeah.
I see. All right. And moving on, what kind of advice would you give to aspiring leaders in the technology space?
I think I'd like to keep it short. I guess stay grounded in the fundamentals,
right,
as well as stay curious about the business domain, and last but not least, be mission oriented.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wise words to end the podcast. All right, we'll leave it as here today, as that's all the time that we have. And I want to take this opportunity again to thank Johnson for providing his insights and knowledge to the topic. And thank you everyone for listening to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.